back to From the Mind of Christine McConnell. Today we are going to be doing something super fun and easy, Halloween masks. We've kind of been jumping all over the place with huge, super complicated projects from the dress form, the dining room, photography, and now I feel like let's just sit down, do something easy. This is super simple, you can do it in just a few hours, and you most likely have the supplies sitting around your house. So with that said, let's begin. All right, to start this process, it's super simple. You just need some aluminum foil. And then if you want this, if you're a woman and you want it to look kind of feminine, you can mold this on yourself. But if you want like a really spooky masculine looking one, you can just, go down to your cellar, see who you find down there. I've already done this step, and you want to come into frame? All right. Captive, do you want to say hi to everybody? Okay. So you want to roll out some, just roll out a couple to be safe, and mold it onto his face. Right here. Are you okay? All right. And if you have them bite on it a little, good boy. And you want to make sure you're getting into the eyes and under the nose. Those are really important. Can you breathe okay? Good. You don't want to kill your captive. That's for later. And you want to sort of mold up the bottom of it. And this is already feeling really good. Okay, I think that's just about it. And you have a nice little mold of a face. Okay, why don't you scamper back down to the basement? And that was just easy peasy. Now that we have a mold that we're happy with, we're going to build a base for it to rest on by wadding up aluminum foil. And this is going to make it so that when we create the mask on this mold, it doesn't lose its shape. It has something to rest on. I'm also going to trim away the excess crinkling on the edge of the mold. So now let's start talking about fabric. This is actually leftover fabric from last year's scarecrow. I dyed it this color, and I didn't pay attention to what the fabric was. I bought it at Joann Fabric, and it was a stark white, but then I also bought some in like a mustardy yellow color. Anyhow, it's so good for this. I've experimented with a few of these masks, and this seemed to be the best because it gave it like a really cool texture when it was finished. So if anyone knows what this fabric is, please let me know. I think it's a natural material. And if I do find out what it is, I will share it with you. But this seems to be the best. So now we're going to start cutting it into little pieces. The rougher these are, the better, and you want a variety of sizes to work with. All right, so now we are going to make a fun mixture. It is just water, all-purpose flour, and some cornstarch. As far as I can tell, there is no perfect ratio. Maybe there is, but I always just scoop a whole bunch in, pour a bunch of water in, and then mix it until it's kind of the consistency of pancake batter. If it's any, I would say, crumblier or drier than that, just add more water. And if it's too liquidy, Just add a little bit more cornstarch or flour. Okay, a step I forgot to do here, and I'm going to be really sorry later in the video. You should lightly spray your mold with a little bit of cooking spray and dust it with either the cornstarch or the flour beforehand. That way, the aluminum foil releases easily, and I didn't do that here, and I will be sorry later. I like starting with the larger strips, and you just, coat them in the mixture, strain them with your fingers, and then lay them. I start working around the perimeter, and then as I get really into the tight features, I start using the smaller pieces of fabric. You want to leave a gash for the mouth and a couple sort of pits for the eyes, and I'll show you what we're going to do with those later. Something that is so neat about doing this yourself is you can't buy anything that looks like this. Everything you purchase at like a Spirit Halloween looks kind of like rubbery and cartoonish and silly, and like this honestly looks like you could have it in a movie. It's so scary when it's done. The thing that is going to either make or break this mask is what you do here with the brow. You want that to sort of dip down at the bridge of the nose and rise up from there, and that's going to create kind of like a spooky, eerie, menacing expression. I add a fair amount of layers just because I feel like the more you add, to a degree, you can kind of really manipulate the way these pieces weave together, and it creates a lot of interest in the end. Because we're creating something that's, technically not attractive, you don't need to really worry about symmetry with this because the asymmetry is actually going to make it a little bit more jarring looking. While I was laying down all of these layers, the strings were really annoying, but here at the end, you can use them to sort of pin around strategically to create a final texture. Okay, it's nice and spooky, and we're gonna pop it in the oven at 325. And I'm gonna kind of keep checking it. It's roughly about 25 minutes, but you just want it to start browning. So while that's in the oven, let's talk about what happens if you overbake it. This is not something you can mess up because this is the first one I ever made, and I burned it to a crisp in the oven to the point that it was just sort of like chipping away here at the side. And obviously it's not really good as a mask anymore, but it really makes like a cool looking, creepy kind of piece of Halloween decor, like up on a shelf. So I don't know. Like I said, you just can't mess this up. Either you're gonna end up with a really cool mask or you're just gonna end up with a neat prop to have around your house. I baked mine for probably actually about 45 minutes, and I rotated it every 10 minutes just to make sure that it was browning evenly. And then you just pop it out of the oven. There's still going to be a touch of moisture in there, and as it dries overnight, it might warp and shift a little bit, but it's just gonna kind of add to how cool this thing is gonna look in the end. And here's where I realized that I didn't pre-grease my mold. And I spent, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half trying to pick out as much of this as I possibly could. Now, you don't need to do this step if you don't have a Dremel handy, but it is nice to kind of go in And anything that's jutting out that might be uncomfortable to wear against your face, you just want to like smooth down and make sure that you're terrifying people with this mask, but it's also comfortable to wear for long durations at the same time. I'm going to cut out a little triangle of this fabric. This is actually the fabric that I used to make those drapes last November. And I'm going to hot glue it in right in the nose area because that is going to be the spot that's going to be pressing the most against your face. If you don't plan on wearing this as a mask, you can actually make a bunch of them with different expressions and just pin them all over a wall just to make a really creepy display. All right, so now I'm really happy with the shape. I've got all of the sort of rough edges smoothed out, and it's time to do some stitches and start painting. I like to pre-drill all of the places that I'm going to be pulling this twine through just because, I certainly could push a needle through this material, but I just don't need to be straining my hand that badly, and this just makes it go a little bit faster. Something I really like about this project is it's really pretty family friendly. You could make this with your children and then at some point in October send them off to school wearing it. Once I've strung the twine through the mouth area, I'm just going to use a dab of hot glue to press down the loose end on the inside. Now I'm pre-drilling all around the perimeter from the bottom of the ear on the right side to the bottom of the ear on the left side over the top. The reason I'm creating these holes is I'm going to be sewing strips of burlap across these areas just so I can create a little bit of a hood and so that it can rest on a head easily. I would say one of the most freeing and fun things about this project is it doesn't have to look perfect. Nothing about it should look perfect. It's kind of the rougher it is, the scarier it will look. So it kind of takes that pressure off, which is nice. Okay, now that I've got those sewn onto the face itself, I need to bring the captive back in and sort of affix and measure how this is going to fit. Feeling good? Okay. So we're just going to Does that feel comfortable? This part is a little bit of a process and you do have to take your time, make sure it's fitting comfortably because you definitely want to be able to wear it for as long as you can comfortably. Do you like that? Too high? Is that looser? Better? Okay, turn that way. Turn all the way. Keep going. Perfect. Being somewhat careful, I like to sew this directly onto the captive's head, kind of using his head as sort of a dummy. Does that feel good? You can see good? Okay, turn this way. Okay, you're dismissed. now it's time to start doing the fun final painting. I love this part just because it is really the time that it makes this thing pop. I really prefer using this paint called Folk Art. I get it at, I think Michael's is where I pick it up. And it's this really great matte sort of acrylic paint. I water this down quite a bit once I get the right color because you almost want to be applying the color like a watercolor and doing it in multiple layers. You'll find when doing this that the layers kind of guide you as far as what to do. The deeper pieces should be the darkest, and anything that's, at the tallest points should be the brightest. To create a dried blood effect around those stitches, you want to make sure the roots are as dark as you can get them. All right, we're all finished. I hope you guys like this. I know I do so many big projects that I think doing a few like smaller, more doable projects is probably going to be a little more fun for everybody. Let me know if you guys like this one. I feel like it's really, really terrifying. You could wear this to a Halloween party, a child's birthday party, wear it to any event you don't want to be invited back to. So with that said, we're going into October. The real fun is about to begin, so stay tuned.
Itch on my mustache.
Where?
Up, right there. That's awful.
Back into character.
Okay.